Hello, good afternoon and good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first REDi Chat series of 2025. I'm Evan Mackey. I'm your moderator for today. I'm here with Rangam Consultants. So thank you all very much for joining us. For those of you who are new to us, Rangam is a technology and total talent management firm. Our mission here is that we're committed to accelerating meaningful employment for everyone. So we have a focus and a deep expertise in neurodiversity and disability inclusion. We're very passionate about expanding supported employment opportunities for everybody. So now our guiding belief here is that empathy drives innovation, and that's the very foundation for this REDi Chat series, which stands for Rangam, Empathy Drives Innovation. This series was launched during COVID by our very own Nish Parikh, which I will introduce in just a moment. He began this series of chats because he wanted to bring a way to drive the empathy to the forefront of all of our collaboration with all of our partners who you'll see here today with us. And our goal through those chats remains the same as it is today. We're seeking to foster sustainable partnerships and drive growth through alignment. Which brings us to today's theme, the future of the workplace. We're going to focus today on how strategic alignment between organizations can be innovative, how we can find scalability, and how we can drive efficiency through different staffing programs. So you'll see here on screen, I've got 3 guest panelists with us today. I'm very excited to be joined by. We've got Pam Sands, Vice President of Strategy and Partnerships at Kelly. We've got Joanne Estrada, Head of Tech Partnerships at Allegis Group. And finally, we have Dan Kublal, Director of Product Strategy at Beeline. So whether you're an MSP leader, a VMS platform executive, if we've got a staffing supplier here on the call, anybody in workforce management, today's session is going to provide actionable insights into aligning processes, technologies, partnerships, and we're going to look at how to navigate the future of the work successfully. All right, that's the end of my spiel. It's my pleasure now to introduce our host and our CEO, Nish Parikh. He is our visionary leader and our champion of collaboration. He's very well known for driving innovative solutions which empower stakeholders across the workforce ecosystems. All right, Nish, take it over.
Thank you, Evan. So nice. Thank you for that introduction. And Pam, Joanne, Dan, so nice to see you and get connected again after quite some time, I would say. And if you guys, from the audience, if you are in the staffing industry, you don't need introduction to these leaders. They have been amazing. Champions of innovation, technology, partnership. So this is a perfect audience, and I'm really excited for this opportunity to jumpstart our first REDi Chat in 2025. With that, Pam, Dan, and Joanne, welcome.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get right into it. As we know, there's the whole trend in the technology and innovation. I will start with you, Pam, if you don't mind. What are your thoughts on collaborating tech first kind of companies and partners like Rangam for workforce solution? When we share certain values and we are creating shared values for our customers and driving innovation, what are the opportunities and challenges you see? And I know you have been a great champion in supplier partnership. What are those challenges and opportunities do you see as supplier like us when we partner with other staffing partners like Kelly?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nish, you know me well, so I'm going to start with the opportunities and then I'll get into the challenges. So I think that, this is a really exciting time to be in our industry. And one of the first opportunities that I think is really just jumping into the power of the partnerships, whatever those partnerships are. We represent just an amazing ecosystem in the industry. And in those power partnerships, I think it's important that just like your teams that you work with and the colleagues you work with, is it starts with really getting to know your partner, whichever side of that equation you're on in the ecosystem. and starting to learn what the strengths of those teams are, those trait capabilities to what we're offering to our clients and to our clients who are the talent that we represent. And then starting to look as we understand those and we understand what each of our offerings are, is that we start looking at where is there some shared value proposition in the work we do together. I think that's a really great place to start. And I think it's an evolution of what we're seeing from going from vendor relationships to those that are really deeply embedded in partnership and looking at what that value proposition is. And then the other opportunity that I see is definitely looking at, we are in an age where insights are a service. Data and insights are really important in the work we do in connecting people with work. And how do we look at where we each sit at an intersection of having availability of that data, and we can share information for how we reach talent and how we meet our client demands. I think I told you I'd come back to the challenge. I think one of the challenges that we have right now is there are so many voices in this conversation, and there is so much information to consume, that how do we distill down to what our priorities would be for this year? There are just so many things vying for our attention, which I know we're going to discuss some of them today. But I would say that how do we silence that noise a little bit and put our attention on the focus areas, and pay attention to the power of that partnership, how we could do some value proposition work together, and how we can really leverage data and insights a little better together.
Beautiful, beautiful. If we are talking, when we talk about the data and insights, leveraging, the technology, Joanne, I know you are heading the technology part of your organization. How do you see the suppliers like us can partner and contribute towards your strategy and align ourselves for successful partnership?
Yeah, Nish is so glad I'm part of this panel. First of all, so good to see you again, and of course my fellow panelist, long-time relationships here. But as you state, yes, I lead our partnerships relative to third-party technologies, data and insights. I love that Pam went there, clear in terms of the value that we provide from an MSP perspective, and of course our RPO solutions as well. And the partnerships that we have with the supply base is so critical when we're able to be successful for an MSP. I think everyone, has always talked about an MSP cannot be successful unless our suppliers are successful. So clearly, within an MSP, we have amazing opportunity to share the data and insights that we have access to, right, within our own organization, or those third-party technologies or third-party analysts that we consume the types of data and insights that we have. And I'm going to just, use the term share that Pam started off with, but it's truly a collaboration between our partner community as well as, our supplier community. I like to use the term partners. That's just me, right? Suppliers should truly be thought of as our partners, because again, we cannot be successful without it, without that partnership. But how do we collaborate around the insights and the data that we're seeing that is impactful for what we're trying to solve for with our customers? And then behind that, it's that so what? So an MSP has, again, this amazing data and insights, but so do our partners. And how can we come together, collaborate on defining the so what, that the data and insights are allowing us to think more strategically on what our sourcing strategy should be, on how we should be delivering talent that is needed at that, client specific. And then how do we use that data and insights to think about, how we need to fill the gaps that are not part of how we're delivering services or the talent that we have access to today. So I would, reference the partnership and of course the collaboration that we should be able to use with both the insights and data that we have access to, but also the supply base. Because clearly, at Rangam, you are a technology company that have clear visibility, and there's many of our suppliers or partners that also have that type of capabilities, and let alone our VMS partners, because of course Dan is here as well.
Yeah. Dan, your thoughts? This is right in your alley. I am pretty sure you breathe and sleep with this type of conversations. Please share your thoughts how this alignment and partnership, and how we can leverage this data and insights for successful collaboration and partnership.
Yeah, so again, thanks for having me, guys, and it's great to see Joanne, Pam. Good to see you guys. Evan and Nish, thanks for having me.
Sure.
I think of this in terms of just where we're at. The industry is a mature industry. It's obviously still growing, and over the years, we've accumulated a massive amount of information. One thing that's happened in the last, I would say 3 years, is we've had to pull ahead in how we consume information, from things like GPTs to other insight-based tools that have been driven off of GPTs and LLMs. I'm excited to see how can the VMS providers like Beeline provide a solution to things that Joanne and Pam just brought up, which is how do we collaborate on information sources? How do we validate those information sources? How do we qualify? And then how do we apply the insights from those information sources? And that's really a focus for Beeline going into this year. It's recognizing that we're the platform where things happen, and suppliers are a valuable asset in the whole ecosystem of what a VMS is, which is why we've made some changes in terms of how we approach the industry. We're not just focused on the traditional client instance. We're looking at solutions for suppliers that are dedicated for suppliers like yourself. We're looking for solutions that actually empower MSPs by having that direct access to supplier functionality. And we're looking for, and we're trying to build out systems that also put the candidate in a bit of control and create a sense of ownership over their data. Because I think that the best data is data that's managed by the person that actually creates it, and they can qualify it and make sure it's good. I think what a risk to these things are, how good is the data you have access to before you get down the path of insights and inferences and whatnot.
Great. Then, by the way, I love the supplier network initiatives and the program by Beeline. We are really excited. The Rangam team is really excited to integrate our Talent Arbor platform with Beeline. And this is the first time I would say we have seen these initiatives where there is a centralized approach towards managing multiple accounts for suppliers and tech companies like us in a centralized approach. So thank you for that that great initiatives and solutions which Beeline and you guys are building. As we talk about the technology, and we talk about the data first, and we also talk about that the collaboration, and when the supplier or Joanne, in your words, partners are successful, MSPs and other organizations who is truly partnering with partners like us, they are successful. When we talk about this collaboration, how do you, or what are your recommendations? And I will start with Joanne. How do you see Rangam collaborate better to build the scalable solution? And I know you guys know we one of our passion is to serve underrepresented community, and our recent solution or platform is going to serve Medicaid members. So when we are working with this population, how do we collaborate better and leverage the technology with organization like yours? Joanne, I will start with you, and then I would love to have everybody's views also.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. So, first of all, awareness, right? I don't know how many MSPs or, clients for that matter are aware of the enablement of a sourcing channel that focuses on what you're calling out right now, right? In terms of the diversity, the underrepresented community, the disability. And, sometimes we're so busy with our day-to-day jobs. Fortunately, we work with a lot of TA and HR, et cetera. But the first thing is awareness. When you and I first started talking about this several years ago, right, Nish, it's like, wow, you know what? I don't know how many of our clients that we're speaking to understand or are aware about the opportunity to look at that community as a source of talent, right? So how do we ensure that we're messaging that effectively? And not only the awareness and, bringing this to light, but with data and insights, with access to talent, with, things that come out and are now more accessible with technology, the so what behind that. So what are the additional value, the additional value, or the storyline, the ROI relative to access to data, insights, a different type of community, lights thereof. So I think cohesively, if you can build a story with your MSPs to really look at telling that story to your clients, and then also at the same time, you really need to think about the client community as well, right? A lot of our clients do have those types of initiatives that make sense relative to the underrepresented, or at the same time, really need to identify where we can, solve for talent that don't exist, right? How we can look at skills-based, but you really have to know where in the journey that client is. And there's nothing wrong with bringing the story around the art of the possible to it, but you also have to make it relative to the conversations that you're having with your customers and or the market, right? If your client is not there, then it's not going to resonate well. But if you can understand and start where your customer is and then talk about the art of the possible and the vision and the opportunity there, I think it's a better storyline behind that. And we talked about data and insights a little bit. We talked about what your solutions are offering, and then of course the skills enablement conversation that technology is now helping to address. I think it's really changing the value proposition where companies like myself have elevated to a more consultative role than that truly transactional, and our partners should be along for those conversations.
This is beautiful. And Pam, I know we have been talking about this for last 10 years. So I'm pretty sure you have some amazing thoughts also. And I know you are passionate about this population and this untapped talent we always talk about. Please share your thoughts.
Absolutely. And I love that Joanne started off with making an awareness, started with awareness. And so I'm completely aligned with all of her thoughts. And there's just so much to unpack here when we think about the value proposition of Rangam in the market and your ability to understand different populations and underrepresented populations. So one of those things that I would just also add to this conversation is thinking about when you're approaching the talent, there's a couple of things. One is the very specific solutions that Rangam has in place for the empathy that needs to be there and the tools that are available for clients and hiring managers as we look at talent entering the workplace as a candidate and then coming into the workplace as a contingent worker. And so just to really dive into that a little bit more is the just incredible wraparound support that is there from finding the talent, from looking with the client at roles that may be good possible roles that could actually be opportunities for individuals that are neurodiverse or on the disability spectrum to be successful in roles and actually exceed expectations in roles because of individual competencies. So starting there from the very beginning of the process to how do you actually hire someone who may be presented with this and you're aware of it, and that empathy that comes with even the type of interview questions, how you coach through that. And then once the person is placed, that wraparound support and the training to the end using managers that comes with that to make sure that it's not just a good idea, it can be seen all the way through to execution to exceed expectations. And there's a lot there in the amount of time. An hour's conversation is not nearly enough to talk about all of that. But yes, you can see I'm passionate about it because what it does is it puts the focus on the talent, on the human who's doing the work and the human who's going to be working with that human doing the work. And that's where Rangam excels.
No, thank you, Pam. And all of you, you have been a great champion for all our work in last 2 decades. And in fact, Joanne and I, we go back 2002, 2003, J&J days, and Kelly J&J and Rangam partnership. So thank you for all that encouragement and a great, I think, learnings. We have been constantly learning from all of you and constantly innovating. And our goal is how do we make this so that it should not cost the client extra for any additional support we need. So that's where now Dan and you and I, we talked about this technology and AI and efficiency and there's amazing things. How can we build those models so that it's more scalable, scalable and more efficient, but more importantly, it's cost effective for our customers. And one of the things which we have experienced that every one of us is connected to someone who needs additional support, including us in some cases. So how do we build those models, cost effective models, so we are successful, the talent is successful, and our customers successful? Um, just a quick side note, Rangam has expanded that from neurodiversity disability. Now we have started to launch a platform called Rangam Works, where we are really looking forward to the partnership within our staffing industry ecosystem, and how do we help this untapped talent. In some cases they don't even have a resume, they have never worked for. So and that particular population, so I'm looking forward to have more conversation in throughout 2025. But I will shift gears, and then I know you are passionate about AI and automation, and we briefly talked earlier. So what are your thoughts on leveraging AI tools to streamline suppliers' operations, empower suppliers to play more strategic role in the workforce ecosystem? And we talked about it. I would love to get your views how Beeline is taking this forward.
Yeah, so again, I appreciate the words you said about the network, and we really appreciate you being a customer of the network as well. I think that just shows that suppliers are really looking for tools to help you be more efficient and to help you show up faster and do better. We have a shared responsibility to two things. One is making sure our clients get the best talent and making sure that talent gets the right job that fits them and has a good experience in that job. As a VMS, I think our responsibility is to listen to people like Joanne, Pam, yourself, that are coming up with these ideas and saying, we need this, or why, or could we do something like this? And this would help us, right? From a VMS perspective, we're a platform that can help you build those tools. From an AI perspective, I view AI as something exciting. I think everybody's excited about it, but I think what I like to ground myself in is, let's make sure that we're putting the right things into the AI models. Let's make sure we're not boiling the ocean, so to speak, to get a result. So when I go to these sessions, even this type of chat, it's really good to hear the top priorities that are coming to mind. When Joanne was going over all of the wants and the needs and the desires, and Pam was going over all the ideas and the outcomes and things like that. Those are things that, from a VMS perspective, and I invite our competitors too to think about this. How do we make suppliers more successful? Because that, again, translates into better outcome for our clients and better outcome for the people that are doing the jobs. We talked about AI very briefly, Nish, and I think as long as we remain, with some centralized pillars, I think that's where we started Beeline. We want to make sure that AI always keeps the human in the loop. We want to make sure that AI has a foundation in trust, and then that AI acts ethically and compliant, right? And that comes down to the transparency, making sure the models are understandable, making sure the models are relatable, but again, making sure the input and output of those models is managed. And it requires human interaction, and it requires the intelligence that more than we bring to this industry. I've been in the industry since 2005 as well. That's not that long in the sense of computer technology, right? But yeah, I think we have a lot of information we can start to leverage, and that's part of the focus for this year.
Yeah, that's great. So as we talk about AI and technology, especially in the staffing industry, Joanne, I would like to ask this a question. How do you with the rapid advancement in AI and automation, how can we balance technology innovation with the need to address fear about how about the job displacement, right? There are concerns, there are conversations. How do you see that, whether it's going to complement or it's going to impact the employment?
Yeah. So first of all, I think all of us on the panel and many, listening in would agree AI is not new, right? I mean, clearly Gen AI, over 2 years ago now, but AI has been around. AI and automation has been around, for a very long time, right? Digital transformation. I mean, I always joke around, how long I've been in the industry, a little bit longer than you, Dan, just a little bit, but, I started my career, as a recruiter where I think I've said it 3 times this week. I literally faxed job ads to the newspaper.
Yeah.
And then I collected resumes from the fax machine, right? I had explained to my children what a fax machine was not that long ago, but, and then move forward around here came, what we, refer to as internet recruiting. And then of course, how we transform the matching capabilities, even with our VMS friends at Beeline. So AI is not necessarily new where, chat GPT and agentic AI is pushing it into a different place. I could not agree with Dan more around we have to be very thoughtful and mindful about what we're putting in AI, right? You really should as an organization, and this is something, MSPs or organizations such as, ours and PANS and Dan can help suppliers with around an AI principle, right? Being very thoughtful around the type of information and how we use AI in the process, right? We're very clear, and I'm a very big advocate around AI shouldn't make the hiring decisions in a vacuum. It should make recommendations and some, key things to think about and call out that the hiring decision is still being based upon a human that has insights, control of the decision making behind it, right? So that we're very human forward relative to AI. But I have to be honest, I use AI like every day on almost everything. I'm going to be guilty and I'm going to call myself out, but I craft emails with Copilot, right? I mean, it's turned on, it's here, so, I use it every day. So I think it's, our role to think about as an industry, making sure we're aware of being very cautious of how we're using it. It is definitely elevating, the human's role around being more consultative and focus on that value added versus I need to get data from one system into another. Or, how can I get this job description more recruitable for someone that I'm leaning more towards of a diversity type of angle? Those things can be dealt with, more with the AI, but you just have to be very thoughtful and have the AI principles behind it. And it's our duty as as a market, as an industry, to be collaborating on that. The other thing is, making sure that it's unbiased, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about REDi in itself, that is unbiased in some of the things that we're pulling together. And, my role in looking at technologies is very clear where we stand from an AI principle. And we go through a very thoughtful process around bringing in technologies that have that agentic or Gen AI capabilities and where we plug it in to the process and how that value, brings value to customers, our partners, and of course our teams. So that's how I would, summarize that. And like you said, this is an hour-long conversation on multiple various different topics. I think all of us could spend, a full day plus there's some on, AI, Gen AI, agentic, and where the market's going.
Yeah, and it's rapidly evolving, rapidly advancing, and Pam, what are your thoughts on the fears about job displacement, because that can directly impact the staffing industry? Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of them there. How do we combine it for now? But I think there's a couple of things there. And one of them is that, as Joanne has already mentioned, we've already had parts of our jobs or jobs that we've been in before already replaced by technology, right? Let's just even go back as far as the wheel, right? So let's just kind of go back.
You're going further back than I did, Pam.
I just kind of went back to the beginning, right? And so because I heard something one time, and it's that fear stands for false evidence appearing real, right? So let's get the facts first. And I think some of the places we can go for some of those facts, we talked about partnerships, we've talked about ecosystem, is work with our technology partners in our ecosystem, right? Dan is an example of that, right? I know the times we've had very highly collaborative conversations, and work with your technology partners to have this conversation, this kind of really rich dialogue around what could be displaced that are within your organization, outside your organization, in the marketplace. And then look at, say, well, what part of do we need to look at the jobs differently? Because it's not just about the displacement and who does the job, it's how the job gets done.
Absolutely.
And so as we start looking at how the job gets done, we can then start really peeling back that onion and looking at initiatives like reskilling and upskilling. I raise my hand all the time and say, I don't feel like I know everything I need to know. And I wish I could take a USB and plug it into my brain at nighttime and get all the downloads of everything new I need to learn, right? And I know a lot of people, I don't know that anybody goes that sci-fi, wants to put a USB in their brain. But, it's how do we all keep up? And I think the fascinating part about it, how we can keep from this displacement is to really say, is that one of the priorities we work on this year? That we look at reskilling and upskilling together in the ecosystem. And then if we want to look at that together as an industry, because it's really the humans that we work with every day, then how do we put together some really cool plans around that? And how do we look at that? Where is automation in the solution? And then the other thing I just love to throw out in conversations like this is I've been doing some work on the future of work. And if you look at and put us ahead to 2030 or 2035, we've already solved this problem. If anybody remembers the movie Back to the Future, right? We've already solved this problem. So if we start looking at where do we think we're going to be in 2030 and 2035, that's the answer. And so how do we back into that for the strategies that we want to put in place today?
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And one of the thing which we always have to be careful. A couple of points on the biasness we want to make sure. So some of the things I know Beeline is leading in the VMS platform space. Then, what are your thoughts with increasing use of AI in the workforce solution? How can VMS platform ensures, because along with the biasness, also there is the transparency is also another concern, compliances and trust of both suppliers and the client. What is going to help us build the better partnership in this ecosystem as we start leveraging more and more AI as part of our solutions?
I think it comes down to the AI being grounded in some pillars, right? So again, I mentioned the human in the loop, making sure that AI is supplemental humans, but not replacing us completely, because we need to guide and monitor. Building trust with AI models so that you understand from a transparency perspective how they're being used, making sure that you trust information coming from it. And then obviously making sure that ethics and compliance are paramount, making sure that we respect the guidelines, we respect the companies, individuals, privacy, all that stuff. And then, to answer your question in terms of how will AI empower suppliers and clients, I think there's some categories that come to mind. Things like driving better savings. So from an operational perspective, using AI to not necessarily displace workers, but maybe make them more efficient, to level people up, for example. Of course, there's always displacement that happens with any type of change, but my hope is that people just become more efficient and can do more, and we don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Improving quality is another pillar or another foundational element I think is important. There should be a reason that you implement the AI process. There should be a reason that you're making the effort to do something, and making sure that quality is there, but also balancing the concept of bias that Pam has mentioned as well, and keeping mindful of that. Efficiency is an underlying value of AI that I think is pretty clear. Doing things with technology is the way we live today. Compliance is, again, another underpinning level. And then talent and insights are the two other pieces that I think when you look at where a VMS platform is going to go, especially one like Beeline, in working with partners and MSPs and suppliers, we have a responsibility to drive transparency to what's happening. And we have a responsibility to drive compliance in terms of making sure people are in a happy path, but then also giving you insights along the way so that you can guide us as to what you want from us. Beeline is not a sourcing platform. We're not a staffing supplier. We're not an MSP. We value the work the suppliers do. We value the work MSPs do. So we're one piece of the puzzle. And I think what I would like to do is show up to be the person to say, let's give you a place to put all these great ideas. Let's give you a place to be more collaborative. Let's give you a place to leverage tools that are what you want. Let's meet you where you're at. And then let's go with you along the way. And as you guys grow, as you guys pursue different objectives, as you want to incorporate more AI, we'll be there. And we'll be on the leading edge to help you, have access to the best tools, have access to the best information, but it's really a team effort.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely responsible. AI is very important. And in fact, as Rangam has started now partnering with the healthcare industry, where we are building AI-based solution. One of our big, I would say, compliance, and where I personally am spending a lot of time, is how to be in compliance and prevent biasness, make it more responsible AI, and at the same time build a solution which is scalable, fast, as well as the efficient. Joanne, your thoughts. I know you must have seen and must be talking to so many providers and solutions in our industry. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, if I turn my attention on, how AI, MSPs have really a great opportunity in working with our VMS, because clearly that's how we deliver our services around the what we need in order to continue to bring more efficiencies into the collaborative solution that we're providing, right? So, Dana, we take advantage full-heartedly around that collaboration, and many of our in our industry does, for sure. But if I turn my focus on the supply and thinking about, how we are looking at AI as an MSP, is very similar to how a supplier can be looking at, right? So that sharing, going back to the original sharing concept around, hey, this is how we're looking at providing more efficiencies and better experience at the MSP, sharing that with our partners, the supply base, is as critical. For example, right, if you're thinking about and what I see on LinkedIn so many times around, within first couple of hours, we had, over 100, applicants for this job. How can I clearly get through all of them? Well, first of all, you as the human don't have to get through all of them. You can supplement that top of funnel with AI, right? In terms of, the evaluation of the skills that was submitted in their profile or in their resume, if they're given one. Does it really match to what the job or the tasks of that role is needed? And use AI and maybe that UI facing up front to be able to do that. And then of course, as you go through that funnel, there's multitude of assessment capabilities, right, around whether or not it's during an interview or it's taking assessment. I'm not really big on tests, if you will, but there are those capabilities when it's needed, a coding test, for example. And then, of course, helping that recruiter. What are the types of questions that I should be asking maybe Dan, because he's got 90% of that, requirement. I know he can do that job. How can I ask the right questions to pull out of his profile what I need to say, yeah, he can do these tasks or those roles. So that's how, just some of the examples, how MSPs and how we're thinking about going from that top of funnel. And then if you take a look at that talent, because talent is ever more important in this process, it helps them with the experience. It helps them understand what maybe they have gaps in or what strengths they have that they should really be highlighting. And then, take it further around some of the capabilities we have with some of our technology providers is highlight, hey, you might, Dan, I'm going to pick on you a little bit more because we were there, maybe to close that, 90%, think about doing, this or taking on a project of that. So it really allows for a better experience for everyone involved, us as an MSP, a supplier, a talent, and of course that hiring manager. Just giving a couple of examples.
That is great. That is great. Joanne, your Pam, your thoughts. I know we've been talking about technology first suppliers and some of the new trends, how suppliers like Rangam kind of evolving and becoming more and more service-enabled tech companies. What have you seen in this space? How our industry is evolving?
Absolutely. I think I just want to comment on what Jane said there a moment ago. The other thing that we can all look at, because one
There
of the
is.
things which we've all agreed to.
Pam, 1 second. Your audio is not quite coming through.
Okay.
There's just like a ringing in the background there.
All right. Can you hear me now?
No.
I will leave and come back.
Okay.
Great. Excellent. Maybe Dan, if you can take that and say, hey, well, what kind of trend you have seen where companies like Rangam is evolving, was started as a staffing company, and as we have seen this trend, we are repositioning ourselves. So what is the trend you have seen as you work with partners like us?
I think the trend is suppliers want to do more. So the initiatives that you mentioned that you're a part of, focusing on different marginalized groups, is one initiative of many that you do. Looking at the way you approach IT roles versus clerical roles versus light industrial roles and the different staffing opcos that you run. I've seen a diversification of what a staffing supplier is. Staffing suppliers used to be temp agencies, sending sending faxes, right, Joanne? And I think it's evolved now to a staffing company is basically an operational element on top of a technology stack. And the limit of what you can do is driven by the amount of people resources you have and also the technology that you're leveraging. And so from a VMS standpoint, we want to make sure that we present all of the technology tools and different insights and things like that we can help you to make decisions as to what you want to become. I think that's really a question for, I know you're asking me what have we seen.
Yeah. I
was on the client side for 20 years, right? Or 15 years. So I'll be honest and say that as a client, I don't know if there's any clients or buyers on the webinar. I never thought about what a staffing supplier went through on a day-to-day basis. I only thought about my program and with the MSP, and it's been really enlightening to step away from the client side. And it's given me an appreciation for both suppliers and MSPs as to there's an entire ecosystem of work that gets done outside of the VMS. And that truly defines what a supplier is doing out there. They're advocates for people every day to get jobs. They're advocates for groups to feel confident to apply to jobs. They're advocates for companies to consider initiatives to incorporate into their hiring strategy. So I think a staffing supplier and an MSP are both two organizations that sort of propel forward how people work in the future. And again, the VMS is there to record and help you guys do the best possible.
Yeah, and it's truly, that's so true that some of the work done by Beeline, it is helping us really build and make the technology completely align with our service side of the business and make it efficient, scalable, and more sustainable. Pam, as you are back, you want to try, see if you can hear your views.
Speaking of technology,
Excellent.
Right, am I back? There we go. And so, what I was going to say is that many of our partners are technology companies first, and then got into the staffing industry. Others started in the staffing industry and have said, hey, wait, we see a solution that's needed in the market. And we believe that we've got the right tools and the individuals and the processes, to create some solutions there. And so I think it goes back to my earlier comments, was getting to know your partners and know all the solutions that our partners have in our ecosystem, our entire ecosystem, not just those that are provided to us today. And there's a lot of value there. And what we've seen in that, because we've leaned into that quite significantly with Kelly, is there's complementary competencies there that we can use to deliver new and innovative solutions. And what I love about it is that it gives us the opportunity to really bring out our crayons, all of us, and to color outside the lines a little bit. And that's where I think that we've got a lot of opportunity as we look at the opportunities that are in front of us with technology and with AI, is to imagine what we haven't even thought about today. And that's what I find is really exciting when you've got a very healthy partner ecosystem, because you're pulling from the best of everyone.
Yeah, and that alignment is so critical. And Rangam is truly thankful to the organization, all of you and your organizations, where we have been learning, adopting, and we have been very agile, and like a lot of other staffing partners. And that's how we all evolve and become better and better and build a better matured industry. Then we talked about some of the work on the automation and helping supplier with empower the clients like Rangam through your platform. See if you can give us few examples of how Beeline is innovating and empowering customers like us. You briefly mentioned that, cost and some of the things, but if you can give a couple of examples, that would be great.
Yeah, we've invested over the last couple of years. I don't know if you've seen me on LinkedIn talk about our supplier focus and talent focus. We're still in the research phase. I think, being a product person, I'm always in the research phase to understand where the market is, and in 6 months we could be somewhere else. What we've accomplished so far is identifying the need for suppliers to have their own space on a platform like Beeline, and also drive dedicated tools for those suppliers to take more control or drive more transparency as to how things are going. I think it comes down to, you're as good as what you know right now and what you think you can do. And so we're trying to give you a sense of, what do we know about you? And let's display that to you. Let's give you as much information as possible to say, here's where you're at. And then let's give you a suite of tools to say, here are things you can pursue. Here are things that you can use to achieve the goals that you've set. If there's something we're missing, that's where people like me come in, and please tell me if there's something that we can do better. And I think that is how we're approaching it right now. Establishing those personas, I think, is paramount. Just giving suppliers a sense of, this is your spot, giving workers, the talent themselves, a place to identify themselves from a PI perspective. Again, not a sourcing perspective, just what is talent? What do you mean by talent? What is a supplier? And then again, bringing along the MSPs and clients, which I view as an MSP and a client are a shared organization for success. Making sure the MSPs and the clients have transparency to deeper insights around suppliers, deeper insights around talent, deeper insights around what did they hire over the last 12 months. And those are some of the things we've done with our analytics products. We have an AI suite that we've launched. All of those things are available that can help you make more decisions. I think it's probably not enough time to go through each of those.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the right time to do it, but it's basically on the trust, compliance, and ethical adherence.
Beautiful. Thank you. Joanne, do you have some examples how you are helping partners like Rangam align with your strategy and the latest and greatest trend? Just a couple of examples. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually want to pick up on something that someone put in the in the actual the comments here. So Sudeep in the comments during the session says, AI-driven analytics gives staffing suppliers a new perspective, right? Because you can see now the candidate behaviors, workforce trends. So it's really going back to that predictive insights, right? Anticipating the needs, optimizing your pipeline, and reducing time to fill. And that's exactly what, MSPs can also help with that, in addition to the VMS. Because if you think about an MSP, right, we have, a number of customers. We, of course, work with a multitude of suppliers. And if we can do a really good job of aggregating that information and data and insights from the things that we have accessibility to, in addition to some of the third-party capabilities, Sudeep is by far highlighting what we can help with suppliers to be able to get to the point where we are, again, in his comments, proactive decision-making, better placements, and stronger client relationships. And MSPs, in working with VMSs and other partners, can enable that type of AI-driven analytics. And that's exactly what we can have with our supplier community today. So thank you, Sudeep. A little call out to you. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. This is great. Joanne, Pam, any thoughts? I know you have been amazing partner for suppliers / partners in our industry. How can the suppliers, partners can align better with Kelly's solutions, strategy, initiatives as we are in now 2025?
No, sure. And so I think that it's not just how they would align with Kelly, but just align in the industry as well, right?
Yes.
It is that, when you look at the relationship and you look at the suppliers, our suppliers actually and our partners sit at the intersection of talent and the MSP and the client that we're servicing together. So there are supply market insights that are very specific to the talent that each of our partners is having access to and finding. And that is really critical, because we talk in this world, we talk a lot about requisitions, we talk a lot about fills, we talk about hit rate, we talk about response rate. But at the end of that is actually finding a person to do the job that goes to our client, that helps the client be successful in the work that they're doing and what they're putting out to the market and their competitive advantage, right? So I think it's taking a look at that full life cycle of what is the work we're actually doing, and understanding, coming back to a very basic principle, what's the why? What's the why in this particular program with this client that they're trying to achieve? And back into what is that shared work we're doing together? I mean, I think about an example of this. There's so many by industry, but I'm just going to choose one, which is the life sciences industry. Yes, you may be taking a role with a life sciences company, but what are you working on at that company? Are you working on things that are a cure for cancer? Are you working on something to help cure diabetes? Are you working on a new vaccine, as we all had the opportunity to do quite a few years ago? And really taking a look and saying, now, how would I approach the business if I look at it from the why? If I look at it from the purpose? Am I communicating that purpose to the talent coming in the door that's looking to go to that client? Is this aligned with something that's important to them? And really getting deep in that strategy and that purpose. That's what being a strategic partner is. It's not just about making sure that the orders are filled. It's really looking beyond that into what is that business about? What matters to them? Because I can tell you it matters to the MSPs, right? Because we're in those strategic conversations with our clients. And it's really fantastic when you're able to say, we're having these conversations with our partners, and our partners care about this as much as we do. So that's how we can say we're going to be finding the best talent for you to move your initiatives forward.
Beautiful, beautiful. Joanne, I will ask on the same line, but a little bit with added twist to it is, as you look at the strategic partnership with your partners, with this now new mix of this new trend and wave of technology, how can Rangam or any other organization can become a better partner, better strategic partner? Any tips, advice, suggestions which we can take away from this today's conversation?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is don't wait, right? As a partner, take the initiative around having that conversation. You know, if you're working with an MSP, raise the question around, hey, what are you doing relative to the strategic conversations? And, you know, offer up some topics, right? Whether it's, skills based is all the rage right now. So what conversations, let us be part of those discussions, because of course we're evaluating what our role is in this. So take the initiative and raise your hand and talk to your MSPs, make some recommendations around some of the things that you're hearing in the market. If you're, one that is very eager around how we're transforming the industry, take the initiative and reach out to your MSP, be part of the community that of course Dan and Beeline are setting up, make some recommendations. Don't just sit back and wait. I think oftentimes, we look at the opportunity to partner with suppliers, and sometimes, it's more of a push than from a MSP than it is from a supply base. So take the initiative and reach out to your MSPs, trigger those conversations if you're not already having them today. The industry is moving so fast, and the innovation and the technology behind it, our value proposition is changing at a very quick, rapid speed. So get in front of those and start to initiate those conversations if you haven't already.
Pam, any thoughts on this? I know we talk about this a lot, but any suggestions, recommendations that with the mix of technology and now service, and how do we partner better, us as a whole ecosystem?
I think one of the things is, which we've been talking about, is being informed of what's going on, and also bring insights that you think that your MSP partner or the client might not have, that you have specific access to. That falls into what we've talked about with data and insights already, but it's fascinating because each supplier and each partner has such a unique value proposition themselves. And I think sometimes it can get lost in just trying to fit into the program. The uniqueness is what makes you special. Lean into your individual uniqueness, right? And if it's something that you think needs to be called out in the program, or something that you see that you're hearing, maybe you're in an adjacent industry and you're supporting another client, and you're like, hey, I'm starting to see some trends here in this particular area. Bring those forward, open the communication. Make sure you're the ones bringing that forward. And then also know that, the relationships are important to build within the program. So build the relationships and build those deep and wide in the organization as you can with your MSP partners. You might not, it's good to know the folks, which you get to know very well in implementation, right? Mm-hmm. When you're coming into a new program, but right. In the program team, and say, who else do I need to know? Is there anyone else that I could speak to? Or here's what I'm seeing. Is there somewhere else I could share this in the organization? And then really look at how you're performing. It does come back to that as well, right? Pay attention to your performance metrics and how are you really performing? Use the analytics available to you and make those informed decisions.
Beautiful, beautiful. We have 2 minutes left, and I would like to leverage this time. I will start with Dan. Please share your thoughts. What is the future of work looks like as an industry in next 3, 5, 10 years?
I think the future of work is pretty bright. I'm hopeful that the market and the economy goes back to a place of more transparency and comfort, and we have more confidence in that we're emerging from the last 2 years. I hope that Beeline continues to do the best we can to serve suppliers and MSPs to help you make the future brighter. Again, we're here as a shared responsibility for suppliers, MSPs, to help clients get the best people in seats so clients can do good in their business objectives. The people that they hire have a good experience, feel good about the job they're in, and are successful.
Thank you. Thank you. Joanne?
Yeah, if I would just add to, because I completely agree with Dan, if I were to add to, technology is not going to stop in terms of how aggressively it's changing every industry in itself. So, take that initiative to think about, what your future, whether it's 3, 6, 9 months, 2 years, 3 years, and we could be telling a very different story in 6 months about the next 2 years. So be very thoughtful about how technology will change and your value proposition going forward. I'm excited, just as Dan said in the very beginning, about what my day-to-day, job is going to be, or my day-to-day life, because of how AI has changed it already.
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, I call AI additional intelligence. Pam, your last closing thoughts.
I will make it quick for us. I will say the future of work is optimistic. I will be that bold, right? Stay curious. We're talking about what's new now. Really get excited and think about what's possible and embrace the art of what's possible. And if I had to give a specific, I would say, make sure you're keeping an eye on the jobs that are coming, not just those that we're filling today. And how are we preparing the workforce for those jobs?
Thank you, Pam, Joanne, Dan. Really, really great talking to you. I learned a lot from this and exchanging ideas. I'm pretty sure all of you who has joined this session has a lot of takeaways. Be sure to come back next month, another episode. We will receive all the details by email and also Rangam's LinkedIn page. And by the way, we also have Empathy Learns series, which is focused on learning and development. Please join us and learn more how Rangam is making an impact at the workplace. Again, thank you guys. Thank you, Joanne, Dan, and Pam for joining us, and thank you everyone for joining. We'll continue this conversation in coming months. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you all
Nish.
for your
Thanks
time.
all.
Thanks,
Great to see you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.